Welcome to the Home Business Podcast with Richard Captain Henderson, publisher of Home Business Magazine, and Sherilyn Colleen, managing editor. This how-to show helps you successfully operate your home-based business.
Greetings and welcome to the Home Business Podcast. I'm Richard Captain Henderson, your skipper at Home Business TV.
Hey, I'm Lynn, your co-host.
Let's gear for seeing, get it away. We love entrepreneurial success stories on the Home Business Podcast.
What do you do when at age 22 you crack the six-figure income but then suffer a drug overdose?
Ted McGrath is now a best-selling author and entrepreneur, teaching others how to create their own lucrative businesses.
Ted has preached this good enough brand to thousands that has laid the foundation for a public speaking empire.
He has also channeled his message into a play with a movie in the works that we want to learn more about.
So hello, Ted McGrath. Welcome to the Home Business Podcast.
Thanks, guys. It's great to be here.
How's it going? So you're rolling down the San Diego freeway?
I'm in the car.
That's
that
cool.
would be horrible. It'd be against the law, right? But I'm here.
Well, we mobile entrepreneurs, we got to do what we got to do. This is great. I think this is the first or second podcast we've done in a car, so I love it. This is part of being in the home-based revolution.
100%.
Well, Ted, let's get to know you better. Can you talk to us about your book and business?
About my what?
Your book and your business.
Yeah, sure. So my business is Message to Millions, and I help entrepreneurs and service businesses and consultants and coaches basically take their products, programs, and their services out to millions of people. And I show them first how to do it online. So we do a lot of advertising online through Facebook and Instagram, and we sell a lot of products. We bring in about 1,200 new clients every single month. And then we eventually bring people to seminars to where we'll lead about 4 or 5 seminars throughout the year with people flying from around the world. So not only do we teach the marketing end of things on Message to Millions, we also teach speaking, and we teach people how to lead their own seminars as well. And then we also teach storytelling. So that's kind of my game. And my book that I just wrote, the book I wrote a while ago was Never Be Closing, which is a sales book. I wrote that years ago. I'm in the process of writing.
Don't they always say ABC, always be closing?
Yeah, we were.
Take on that.
That's right. We reverse the flows, man, and never be closing, So I published that years ago, and now we're doing another book called Good Enough, which is based on my play and my movie, and it's kind of a movement we've created.
Well, cool. Ted, you did have a life-altering experience that you channeled into new opportunities. How did the wake-up call of overdosing change your life?
I was chasing money, basically. I was an artist at heart my whole life, and from the time I was a kid at a very young age, I was doing performances, and I had a magic show, and in fact, I had a really foul mouth as a kid. I used to do all these impersonations of Eddie Murphy and his one-man show with Raw and Delirious. Yeah. So that was kind of my thing. And then I just got down the wrong path. I thought that to get approval from my family, I should be an entrepreneur. I should be a financial guy. I went to a liberal arts school, and I still thought, well, to make any money in life, you got to major in business or economics. And my English teacher even begged me to be an English major because of my writing. But I was like, there's no money in that. So I graduated, got in the insurance business. And by default, because my dad went bankrupt, and initially I wanted to go into business with him. And then I found myself just chasing the money and wanting the approval of my boss and my dad. And I figured, hey, if I make money, I'll feel good about myself one day. And I did. I made money, and I overdosed from drugs and alcohol. And I realized, wow, money was not the answer.
It sounds like you just had a whole bunch of things crashing down, a lot of things you were trying to do, and it just, led to some life-altering things that you've channeled in a good direction now.
Yeah, I have. After that, I still didn't get the full lesson. I went out and figured, well, I work with a corporate company. I'll make partner with the company, and about 6-7 years later, I was one of the top partners for one of the top life insurance companies. And even after accomplishing that, I still had that question that I think a lot of people have, which is this all there is to my life? There's got to be something.
What's the meaning
more.
of all of this?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think a lot of people ask that. What is the meaning? Like, is this all there is? Like, what am I doing? What's my purpose? So since I knew I had some form of expression inside of me, I resigned, became an entrepreneur, and still was lost because, when you're trying to find your footage, I was still lost, and I moved out, kept the same lifestyle when I was in San Diego. I moved from Florida to California, and I spent all my money. All my houses went into foreclosure. Cars towed out of the driveway, everything just down to nothing. And then I was sitting on my couch a couple years later with my face in my hands, and I was like, well, what the hell do I really want to do with my life?
Mm-hmm.
That was the turning point. And that's when I decided I should speak. I've been speaking my whole life, so I
Well,
should
it sounds like
speak.
some of these things that happened to you, you had a self-awareness. You were aware of what was going on, and you looked to channel this into, some obvious natural gifts and talents that you have, and it's been a good connection.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was always a searcher, so I definitely had the awareness to search that there was something more out there. I just didn't know what it was, and I kept searching until I found it, and to a certain degree, I'm still searching.
Aren't we all?
Well, a foundation of entrepreneurial success is establishing your brand. Ted, can you sum up what your good enough brand encompasses?
Yeah, so I mean, good enough is really, it's based on my life story that, at some point in life, I think everybody has that feeling that they're not good enough for something. Certainly I had it when I started in business. And until I got some success, I didn't feel good enough. And even after that, I was still unfulfilled. Certainly when I went out and built a speaking business and got up on stages and, speaking in front of hundreds of people, I had that feeling, for years before I got confident that I wasn't good enough to succeed in doing it. But then over time, I learned that, wow, I've succeeded in athletics in college. I succeeded in the insurance business. I succeeded in leadership. I succeeded in sales. And then I succeeded as a speaker. And then from there, I was always had trouble learning, had a massive problem with learning. But I decided one day I was going to learn marketing. And that was about 6-7 years ago. And then I've, taken my business to, high 7 figures, almost 8 figures this year. And now we're at a point where, 100% of what we do is through marketing online and getting our message out there. So when I learned I could conquer that, I just started to learn that there's at this point in my life, I believe I can do anything. And, but it took years of trials and tribulations and years of lack of confidence and self-worth to actually get to this point.
It sounds like you've done a lot of self-learning. I mean, you've observed and then you've taught yourself a lot of these lessons.
Yeah, some of it I've taken courses too, courses to learn how to study as well, and to just learn how to, learn things. And so that was an important part to know that I wasn't dumb, that I was actually super intelligent. My IQ's gone up by 33 points over the last 5 years. And so
Dude, I
a lot
think
of times,
mine's gone down 30 points.
yeah,
We
it's funny,
balance each
isn't it?
other out.
Balance each other out. It's funny, the myth out there is that people can't even improve their IQ a lot. It's like your IQ is your IQ. That's not true. My IQ's gone through the roof. I'm almost at genius level, I think, at this point.
Wow.
But, we're told that you can't improve certain things, and we're also often measured by tests. My SAT scores were probably one of the worst in my high school. And I just learned that there is an avenue and there is truth out there. And in a lot of the systems, there's untruths. And so I learned to find what the truths are and just use it to my advantage.
Wow, this is a fascinating story. But we understand you're turning this play you've developed into a movie. That's interesting. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I wrote the play 6 years ago, and I didn't realize I had a performer.
Again, what's the name? What's the name of the play?
It's called Good Enough.
We
did a 6-week run here in Hollywood just a couple months ago. We're doing another one in January. And the funny thing is, 6 years ago, I didn't know, I knew as a kid I was performing and doing things, but nobody in my influence, the town I lived in, that I knew was doing acting or theater or any of that stuff. So I just dropped it. And then 6-7 years ago, I saw a guy do a play on stage, a one-man play, and went at a business conference. I was like, oh my God, that's what I should be doing. And so I went and I wrote a play, and then I started performing, and I got great coaching. I've got some really great people coaching me right now. And then at that point I was like, well, why don't I was telling people, and I had actors come to my play, Marty Cove, who's in Cobra Kai and Karate Kid, came to my play. Joel Zwick, the director of My Big Fat Greek Wedding, came to my play. And so I had people come, and they're like, do you know how hard it is to do a one-man play? And I started to have these actors flow admiration to me and go, wow, it's so amazing you can play 20 characters on stage. And so I was like, well,
that's what I wanted to ask you. In the play, is it more of a monologue, or are you actually assuming the roles of different characters?
Yeah, I assume good question. I assume the role of 20 different people in the play, so it's not a monologue. So, so when I do that, and I realize, well, wow, I'm an actor. I said, well, I should turn this into a movie, and I should star in the movie. So the goal is to film in May. We've raised almost half the money for the movie already. I've got a great director on board. I've got some great writers on board. So we're moving on it.
Oh, it's cool.
Yeah.
Ted, do you have any tips for entrepreneurs that are looking to get started and dive into their own business?
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of good things out there, but there's a lot of misinformation and there's a lot of things that aren't true. And also, just because something's true for somebody else doesn't make it true for you. So you could look at somebody else's marketing strategy or sales strategy or business strategy and think that the grass is greener on the other side and I need to change everything I'm doing. And oftentimes when people change everything they're doing, it goes down the toilet. And sometimes somebody's on the precipice of success and they're working really hard and they just need to stick to something if it makes sense and they've seen other people get results for it and they're working a strategy. Don't jump strategies before you're about to have success.
So it's kind of safe to assume that for an entrepreneur that's out there, you've built some kind of a foundation and you want to keep building on that and not just knock the whole house down and start all over again.
That's exactly right. And I think it's so important for entrepreneurs to know that and understand that and just trust in themselves and their ability and always go and learn more. Like if you see a great idea that somebody's doing, learn it, but test it. Never change something completely before you've tested on a very small level, and then let your company know and everybody else on your team know that you made a change, because you can almost all the time trace down statistics in a company back to a change that was made.
Mm-hmm.
So if your statistics are going great and then all of a sudden you see something crash, some change was made in the business. Go back to find the change and you'll correct your statistics. And it's so funny. Entrepreneurs think that businesses should be up and down. I don't think business should ever be up and down. We've been on an uptick for the last 5 years, right? We doubled last year, 2.5 times. So from the perspective of life, people go, oh, you go up and down in life, things go up and down. Well, I don't think that should happen. I think that's an untruth.
I think they kind of like that you're going to have a major uptick or downtick if you take a lot of risk. Maybe you got to be careful in your risk from year to year after you've built something. But I think when you try to leap too far sometimes and go a little bit past the risk you should, sometimes maybe that can lead to downturns and crashes.
Yeah, it could, and it also, if somebody has the right system in place. I remember a year and a half ago, I just came out, I made a decision from certainty, and I'm like, I'm going to double our ad spend. And I just realized, and it was, to outside, it might look like a risk to somebody, but when you have a system that's proven it's been working for a while, it's like, okay, we'll try it. Let's double it.
Yeah, the advertising, you had tested it. So you at least done some initial testing so you knew what worked.
Yeah, absolutely. And still, when you make a big change, as you were saying, there is a little bit of a risk to it when you're doing it, but you have to measure it. Like, if we break through, am I willing to take the risk on this, And a lot of entrepreneurs, the reason they are successful is because they do take risks. But of course, you can't be stupid about it. You got to be smart and intelligent and measure data and make sure you have a plan that you work,
I'm just on this concept of testing. I wonder, how did you test the Playout? I mean, you just didn't start right in front of a big audience. I mean, it's just kind of curious. How did you test that out?
Really great question. I went for it and put it up in front of 200 people, all my peers, and I just went for it. I was at the point where I was just like, I don't care. Like, these are my peers. Whatever they think. I want to be courageous and do something. And for me, the outcome of being courageous was better than. I wanted to send a message that we can all do anything we want, and what's most important is that it's true to us. And of course, my first show was nowhere near what it is today. If I went back and looked at it, I was like, oh my God, Jesus, my first freaking show, But I remember, like, one guy in the audience stood up and just looked at me. He goes, "The ball's on you, man, to get up and be able to have the courage, to tell things about your life." I am very vulnerable and raw in the story. I tell things about sexual experiences as a kid. I talk about all kinds of stuff, things that happened in my family, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
And people appreciate the vulnerability. So I just wanted to get my truth out there, and I knew over time we'd improve it.
But you threw caution to the wind and went right in front of a larger audience. You didn't test it with a couple of friends first. You just went for it.
Yeah, I went for it, man. I tested it with my acting coach, and that was it, man. That was it. We went in. Yeah.
Maybe that's the best way sometimes. You got to reach a point, like even a business, you can war game it forever, but there's at some point you got to jump into the pool, and there's nowhere.
I agree, man. I agree. I think sometimes you got to make that decision,
Well, succeeding in your own business does require some stick to it. Any advice for entrepreneurs to persevere in, when the going gets tough in their business?
Yeah. I mean, I think the main thing is, as you grow a team, Having like the thing what we've struggled with is making sure we get the right policies in place. When a statistic drops, right, it's like, okay, we've learned a lesson. What's the policy that we need to put in place to make sure that this doesn't happen again? So you're going to learn things as you go along. Things aren't going to work, or things are going to work. But when things are working, document why it worked. When things aren't working, write a policy so you never do that again or make that mistake again. And I think people continue to err over and over again because they learn from the thing and make sure they get it in place.
Yeah, so you've got a kind of interesting take. I really haven't heard that a lot with entrepreneurs, but you're process oriented. I mean, you're evaluating what you're doing and then actually measuring it and then making sure you don't make the same mistake twice.
Yeah, we are. I've become process driven. I learned this from Wise Management, but that's the company I learned it from. But for me, I wasn't naturally a process driven person. I've had to become that, because to run a company and grow it and scale it, you have to start to learn processes. My natural inclination is not that, but I've become good at it.
I mean, that's a good lesson for any home-based business entrepreneur, home-based entrepreneur. You're growing your business and, expanding out to working with other people and in ventures. You've got to have processes in place, agreed ways of doing business, and that everybody could kind of be on the same wavelength. If you don't do that, you're just going to be an ongoing state of confusion.
Totally. And I think also like disagreeing with the norm. That's what entrepreneurs do anyway. Like during the holidays now, our goal is to have our best 2 weeks. So we're putting in place bonuses.
Well, that is against the norm. It seems like totally. Everybody's taken off for this week. So that's a good goal to have.
Yeah. So our goal is to have the best. We just had one of our best weeks last week. And what we're doing is putting incentives in place for our customers and also our team members. So our sales teams has big bonuses this week if they hit goals, because as a business owner, and I learned this from working at New York Life, our income was determined next year by how we finished in December. So you can bet that we were working the hardest of the entire year in December. And we always pulled off our best month in December. And people think, well, you can't succeed during December because it's the holidays and nobody's working. No, from my perspective, is most people aren't working because they've been taught that you don't work during the holidays. Now, it doesn't mean you don't.
That opens up an opportunity for those that are working.
Exactly. And it's not that you don't go spend time with your family and do things. The question is, if we're going to take a holiday on Christmas, how do we prepare the rest of the week to get ready so that we can kick ass the other 6 days of the week, And it's fun, and I think sometimes, like, if you're having money problems during the holidays, like our sales team appreciates working hard to get bonuses, and maybe they want to get that extra present for their niece or their nephew. So we're making the game to go, hey, you get $1,000 bonus this week. Get your nephew something, or get yourself something, or go to the spa on the holiday, or whatever. Something.
Buy things into what motivates people.
You got it, man.
Ted McGrath, this has been a great discussion on your good enough brand and inspiring story. Do you have any final points?
Thanks.
Yes, of course.
I would just say go for your dreams, people. That's my main thing. Like, you're going to get a lot of people. The first thing I had to do, the last wisdom I have is, the first thing I had to do was convince myself and make sure that I knew that I was good enough. Once I got to a place that I believed in myself, what I ran into next is running into other people who don't believe in you because they don't believe in themselves. So a lot of times you share an idea with a person, and because they don't believe in themselves, they'll knock down your idea. So what I've learned to do is mainly disagree with most people out there and realize that they're disagreeing with me because their own belief system doesn't think that they can do it. So I've learned to shift how other people think. And, this goes for people who are super successful, who may want to go into another field, and they have somebody in that field who doesn't agree with them, or they themselves don't agree with them. Believe in yourself first, and then get other people to believe in you. And that's the secret of life.
Shift the way you think, even if that means you're shifting down the freeway in Southern California.
You got it, man.
McGrath,
parked right now.
I'm glad no one's ran you off the road yet. So
that's right, man.
Thanks for being such a great guest on the Home Business Podcast.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate you guys, and have a happy holiday.
Yes, you too. To learn more about Ted McGrath's speaking tours and his Good Enough brand, visit tedmcgrathbrands.com or our podcast website for more information on guests.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Home Business Podcast. Share your feedback with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our website, homebusinessmag.com.
Visit the website for information on advertising. Subscribe to our newsletter. Please visit our sponsors. For more information, visit homebusinessmag.com or the expo at homebusinessexpo.com.
I'm Richard Captain Henderson saying, anchors away.
We'll talk with you soon. Until then,
Make it a great home-based biz day.